Well, I hope that you'll follow. In the 60s, some people I knew led me into Freudian psychotherapy. And I became the Freudian's friend. And so we would talk. And he said to me once, his name was George Garreau, and he was an elder. And he said to me, "Do you consider yourself to be omnipotent?" And I said, "Well, first of all, I don't know if I understand the meaning of that word." And he explained, all-powerful. And I said, "Well, of course not, but isn't that a human characteristic?" So I have a recall that's very precise, and I practice not exaggerating and being precise. And so more than a generation went by, and I realized that this wasn't his language, he being the Freudian psychiatrist. He was from Hungary and he was from Germany, and he didn't speak American English. And so I realized that what he really meant to say to me was, "Are you aware that you're oblivious to reality?" And that I could deal with. What reality and whose reality? So the idea of the 70s, yeah, I'm 72 now, and the American Civil War was in the 60s, but another century ago. Robert Altman, in this whole picture, this whole thing that we shared tonight, is, as you know, I mean, motion pictures is a completely collaborative process. But this was the vision of Robert Altman, who was a great American director and artist. And I was extremely privileged and blessed to be able to not only be in this picture, but to have made several other pictures with him.
And the movies.
Well, I tell you, you saw, when the shots of the Jeep coming to the MASH compound, you should recall that the exteriors, those exteriors in the compound, were at the ranch, the 20th Century Fox ranch in Malibu. And we would all go there or be taken there, and then we'd be transported to where the MASH set was. But between where we'd leave our own vehicles and the MASH set, they were shooting the Planet of the Apes at the time. And so we would go through the set, and these other actors who were playing the Planet of the Apes. I'd never worked with anyone who worked like Bob Altman. This was the fourth picture that I had participated in. And Donald and I became very close in the process, and Bob and the rest of the company were together. I wouldn't look at dailies because I really didn't want to fall in love with anything in terms of the process, its work. We had a great time. I had no idea that the picture was going to be so successful. Bob always knew, Tom Skerritt and everybody else always knew, but the improvisational part of Bob's work was great, not only for us in this picture, but everyone he ever worked with. When we showed the picture to Ring Lardner Jr., who wrote the screenplay or adapted the book into a screenplay, and Ring Lardner Jr., I didn't know at the time, was a great American, because he was one of the Hollywood 10, and he didn't talk. And
blacklisted.
Yeah. And so, and he had won an Academy Award at an earlier time in Hollywood history for collaborating on the screenplay of The Woman of the Year. And we showed him the picture, and Donald and I stayed outside and played ball. We didn't go in to watch it with him. And it was a screening like this for Ring Lardner Jr., and he came out, and he walked up to me, And I thought, well, what do you? Well, I'm just an actor in this picture. And he said, how could you do this to me? There's not a word that I wrote on screen. And Ring Lardner Jr. went on to win the Academy Award that year for writing the best screenplay of MASH. I can only tell you from experience and living it. Bob Altman was more than just a maverick. He worked here at Warner Brothers, and Jack Warner couldn't stand him. He did a picture with Jimmy Caan and Bob Duvall called Countdown, and Bob sort of established or made breakthroughs with people talking at once and overlapping dialogue, and the establishment and the people who had a more conventional way of doing this kind of work were really put off by Bob, and he had a lot of problems, but he was amazing to work with, and really gave me all the space, or allowed me to take, and every one of us, the space in which to exist and live. Because I found that Bob's work and his pictures were all about life taking its course. And if you haven't studied or looked at his work, I recommend it. And there was a great French director by the name of Jean Renoir, and some people would really get ruffled to think of Robert Altman in the same category as Jean Renoir. Renoir made The Rules of the Game, and Renoir made The Grand Illusion, amongst other things. But Robert Altman made MASH, he made Nashville, and he made The Long Goodbye, and he made The Player, and everything he made was original. Acting in movies is completely different than acting on the stage. And as far as I know, one of the things that I learned and was able to accomplish in the course of my work with Robert Altman and his work with me was to learn to listen. Because I've been seeing MASH somewhat often recently, since it's the 40th anniversary of it. And it's celebrated in a lot of places, and especially with Bob Altman and his having passed on during the last several years. I always, even tonight, see something that I hadn't seen before, and hear something that I hadn't heard before. So, I mean, I think that, and I had an opportunity to spend a good deal of time with Alfred Hitchcock. We didn't work together, but what he said to me was that it's all music, but that everybody has to be playing together for him to see his picture. And that if one person thinks that they have to make themselves more outstanding than anyone else, it throws the concert off.